Alright, hello and welcome back to Let's Play yet another no-name MAME game, and don't worry, it's not broken. I know, that got me the first time, I was a little concerned, but no, it's fine. Today's no-name MAME game is, of course, Top Gun. Now, personally, I'm more of a fan of Top Gear. I mean, pretty good racing game for the Super Nintendo, but Top Gun will do in a pinch. So, let's not even kid ourselves. Let's put in all the credits, play all the credits. I even have auto-fire going on, so, no semblance of pride going on, don't worry. And, so do you want the hound, do you want the wolf, or do you want the tiger? We're going for the one that you can spam. I mean, that's kind of the theme so far, putting in a bunch of credits, shooting a bunch of bullets, and now shooting a bunch of missiles. So the controls are up, down, left, right. Up, down, left, right. That's right. It does have the inverted air flight controls. So up is down and down is up, but left is right and right is left. Actually, no, left is left and right is right. It's a bit tricky to get the hang of. And then you play a couple and you're like... And then it starts getting a little tricky when it's not like that. And then you just instinct kicks in and you're like ruined for life. So, this is, of course, originally a Nintendo game, and so we have got two buttons to play with, although it kind of seems like you only have one. And it does seem like it kind of just shoots the missiles automatically, which, I mean, this is kind of okay, but if you've ever played, like, Afterburner, which I would argue is the definitive... Ooh, do we have to actually land the plane? Oh, we do. Oh gosh. What does that mean? Speed down? Something tells me he's not gonna make it. Yeah. Ooh. Gosh. Yeah. I like how there's kind of this sort of like tacit acknowledgement. It's like, yeah, so that mission happened. You didn't necessarily succeed, but it's over and we're moving on now. Oh, that's pretty great. You gotta love a game that kind of tongue-in-cheek just kind of acknowledges that you totally failed, but kind of rolls with it. So if we look at a little speedometer, then holding up makes you go slower. Alright, so it's just all about the angle of the aircraft to control speed, which I can accept. And let's see. So this game, well, actually, I'll admit, so I mean, comparing it to Afterburner, arguably the best jet shooting game ever, it actually holds up pretty well. I mean, you don't quite... The thing that was really cool about Afterburner was you pulled the trigger to shoot the, rockets. Or at least, I assume you did. I only ever played the Genesis version, but the Genesis version was plenty awesome enough. I might have accidentally played the arcade machine, and I believe there was a trigger of some kind. Also a throttle. And then, yeah, you get that nice, satisfying feeling of actually pressing a button to shoot a missile. Of course, at the same time, the game also kind of emphasized, like, conserving your missiles. And I don't really mean conserving your missiles, I just mean, like, make every missile count. You can't just go crazy hog wild up there in the skies. And it actually doesn't give you infinite missiles either, so... But this game, it's a different sort of focus. It's more on, like, can you maneuver correctly? Can you shoot missiles that are coming at you? Which is a fair enough challenge already. Although I sure hope any kid who had this as a Nintendo game had a turbo fire controller, because if you had to actually press the button each time... Although I guess you kind of have to do that for every Nintendo game, so maybe your fingers would be used to it by now. I do kind of like that we just kind of, like, just shoot missiles at the ships and boats and whatnot. No real regard as to whether or not it'll take it down. Like, each aircraft, like, one missile takes down an aircraft, but, a missile does not take down a ship, sadly enough. And I guess you kind of have to fight between, like, shooting down the missiles and dodging them. But they're pretty good at hitting you, so I'm not entirely sure. And your craft is fairly maneuverable, but unlike the lower left-hand corner would lead you to believe, it's not that maneuverable. Although I do kind of like how the missiles, enemy missiles operate on a sort of like out of sight, out of mind principle. But yeah, I mean, it's nice, almost Afterburner-esque action for the Nintendo of all places. That's pretty great. Yeah, dang. Because, I mean, it's one thing to go out into an arcade and play an arcade game, but it's an entirely different thing to be able to take that thing home and, like, play it at home anytime you want to. Ooh, that's no good. Now, the eternal question is, did I get shot from behind or shot from front? The verdict doesn't matter either way. Oh, man, because... See those chumps going in front of me? In Afterburner, those guys would be dead before you could say Afterburner. But in this game, they kind of just taunt you. It's like, hey, look at us, can't get us. Ooh, out of missiles. And I don't think there's any sort of throttle or anything, so, Well, I mean, I tried everything I could. I even tried speeding up, but I couldn't get out. And no more missiles remaining. This is a pretty hard game. I swear this was remade for the Game Boy Advance or something. And it was just as hard and just kind of as crazy, and unfortunately about as clunky. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that. That does seem kind of crazy if they would remake a game. Well, I mean, it's a pretty nice game. I feel like there were some controls that, I'm not quite privy to. Oh, okay. So just like everything else in this game, basically operates under the principle if it can't see you, it can't shoot you. Does not make any sense at all, but we'll go with it. Gosh, you don't even get missiles for free, or do you? Oh, down, down, up, up. Ah. Now they're throwing rights into the mix, and it's like, I can't handle it. Speed up. Well, oh golly. Now that'll do it. So I'm pressing the second button or something, and that is a speed up. Unfortunately, that was my source of fuel, which... Okay, and probably my source of missiles somehow. I'm not entirely sure how you refill missiles in air, but I do know how you refill fuel in air. God, man. Well, of course, if you're a kid and you're playing this, I'm pretty sure this would be sort of like jet fighting heaven. And it is pretty cool, like jet fighting games that like kind of pretend like you're a jet fighter flying through the air. All in all, a pretty nice game, although not a game that I would necessarily want to play again and again and again. It just... Konami versus Top Gun. I feel like it's kind of lacking some sort of fairness or something to it. Like, it doesn't really feel that you can... It doesn't really feel like you can get out of every single scenario. Like, you see when the 3 missiles are coming at you, it's kind of a toss-up as to whether you can, like, get out of the way or shoot them all down. With, like, a game with Afterburner, it's like, you can really feel it, you can really see it, you really know whether... And if you fail, it's really your fault. This game, it's a little floaty and not quite so much. But still, I mean, if you judge it purely on the fact that it's, like, a Nintendo game, and it's basically Afterburner for your Nintendo, then... It's pretty darn cool, so. And ultimately, that kind of, like, gets into another question. It's like, on what scale should you judge these arcade games? Because on one hand, you kind of have to take them in context a little bit, but on the other hand, I mean, they're not in a vacuum anymore. You gotta kind of compare them to, what's out now, I guess, in some sense. Maybe not really, but you kind of have to start factoring that in, so. Good game, bad game? I don't know. I mean, do you lose points because there's like a cool new version out, or do you gain points, or... That's for someone else, that's for the critics to decide. I just play the games. Well, on that note, this cat's got a scat.